The great chamber of Zephyria Prime buzzed with activity as representatives from 12 different worlds gathered for their monthly meeting. The massive dome stretched high above them, its crystal walls showing the stars beyond. Ambassador Kethvar of the Sorok Empire adjusted his scaled armor as he waited for the session to begin. His yellow eyes scanned the room, watching the other delegates take their seats. The Kwarathi representative, Senior Counselor Vexani, floated near her designated area. Her crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the floor. Nearby, the insectoid Zithron delegate called Hive Mind Nexus 7 clicked its mandibles in what passed for polite conversation with the fish-like Aquari ambassador. "Order, order," called the session leader, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "We have much to discuss today. Trade disputes, border issues, and the usual complaints about shipping lanes." Kethvar raised one clawed hand. "Before we begin the formal agenda, I have something interesting to share. My traders have been hearing stories again." "What kind of stories?" asked Vexani, her voice ringing like crystal bells. "The old spacer tales, about the 13th species, the humans." A ripple of laughter went through the chamber. These stories had been around for generations. According to the tales, somewhere in the dark space between known systems lived a race of bipedal creatures. They walked on 2 legs like many species, but that was where the similarities ended. "Let me guess," said the Aquari delegate, his gills fluttering with amusement. "They breathe poison air and drink liquid that would melt our insides." "That's right." Kethvar nodded seriously. "But there's more. The stories say they can survive in temperatures that would freeze us solid or boil us alive. They heal from wounds that would kill any rational being. And when they fight," he paused for effect, "they fight like they don't care if they die." Nexus 7's compound eyes glittered. "The hive mind has heard these tales. They speak of creatures who charge into battle without proper calculation of survival odds. Impossible behavior. Exactly why they're myths." Vexani's light pulsed with dismissal. "No species could evolve such traits and survive. Natural selection would eliminate beings who ignore self-preservation." The chamber erupted in agreement. The idea was ridiculous. Every known species had developed intelligence as a way to survive. They calculated risks, formed alliances, used technology to overcome physical limitations. The mythical humans, supposedly, did the opposite. They used brute force, ignored danger, and somehow thrived in conditions that would destroy any real civilization. "My favorite part," chuckled the hegemony representative, "is how they supposedly live on a deathworld, a planet with weather that changes randomly, giant bodies of salt water that can swallow continents, and predators that hunt for sport rather than food. Don't forget the gravity," added another delegate. "According to the stories, their world pulls so hard that most of us couldn't even stand up there." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, in a system the aliens had never bothered to explore, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance. The view screen showed the blue marble of Earth hanging in space, beautiful and peaceful. He had no idea that at this very moment, beings across the galaxy were laughing at stories about his species. "Captain," called his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Wells. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Put it through." The screen changed to show Admiral Kate Sullivan sitting behind her desk at the Luna Command Center. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were serious. "Jake, we've got new orders for the fleet. As of today, Operation Deep Watch is moving to Phase 2. Morrison straightened. For months, human ships had been using new, faster-than-light technology to scout the galaxy. What they found amazed and terrified Earth's leaders. They were not alone. Dozens of species had built a vast civilization among the stars, with trade networks, military alliances, and political systems that spanned hundreds of worlds. "We've confirmed at least 12 major species," Sullivan continued. "They have technology we can barely understand, populations in the trillions, and military forces that could turn Earth to dust without breaking a sweat." Commander Alex Turner, Morrison's tactical officer, leaned forward. "What are our orders, Admiral? We make contact, but carefully. We need to understand their politics, their power structures, their weaknesses. Most importantly, we need to figure out if Earth can survive in their galaxy. Dr. Lisa Graham, the ship's xenobiologist, raised her hand. Admiral, what if they're hostile? Our weapons and defenses are designed for human conflicts. We have no idea how they'd perform against alien technology. Sullivan's expression grew grim. That's exactly why we need intelligence first. We're not rushing in with guns blazing. We watch, we learn, and we prepare. If negotiations fail, she paused. Let's hope they don't fail. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison's crew in thoughtful silence. They were about to make humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. The weight of Earth's future rested on their shoulders. Captain, Turner said quietly, do you think we're ready for this? Morrison looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, billions of alien beings lived their lives completely unaware that humanity existed. They had built wonders beyond imagination, while humans were still learning to use fire. Yet here Earth stood, ready to claim its place among the stars. Don't know if we're ready, Morrison admitted, but ready or not, it's time. Sarah, send a message to the fleet. All ships are to prepare for immediate departure. We're going to meet our neighbors. As the human fleet began its preparations, back on Zephyria Prime, the council meeting was winding down. The delegates had enjoyed their laugh about the mythical humans, and were now discussing more serious matters like cargo inspections and fuel prices. None of them suspected that the creatures from their ancient stories were real. None of them imagined that right now, human ships were moving through space toward their worlds. And none of them could predict that their galaxy was about to change forever. The myths were coming true, and they had no idea what was heading their way. 3 months had passed since the council meeting on Zephyria Prime. Scout Captain Zithra of the Zithron Collective was having the strangest patrol of her career. Her ship drifted silently through the outer rim of known space, sensors scanning for pirates, illegal mining operations, or any other threats to galactic peace. Hive Sister, called her sensor operator. I'm reading something unusual. Energy signatures that don't match our database. Zithra's compound eyes focused on the display. The readings made no sense. Whatever was out there was moving fast, but not using any known form of faster-than-light travel. The energy patterns looked like something from an old textbook, primitive but somehow effective. Distance and heading. Approximately 40,000 kilometers moving toward the Kepler system. Captain, the velocity readings are impossible. Nothing should be able to move that fast without tearing itself apart. Zithra clicked her mandibles in thought. The Kepler system was supposed to be empty. A few dead planets around a dying star, nothing worth visiting. Follow at maximum safe distance, record everything. 2 sectors away, a Quarathi mining operation was having its own mysterious encounter. Station manager Velthari was reviewing production reports when her security chief burst into her office. Manager, you need to see this. Our perimeter sensors detected ships approaching the asteroid field. Velthari's crystalline form shifted to a deeper blue, indicating confusion. Ships? We're the only operation authorized for this system. That's just it. These aren't on any of our ship registries. They appeared suddenly, scanned our mining platforms, then vanished just as quickly. Vanished how? Not jumped, not warped. They just left, like they turned invisible. The security chief brought up the sensor logs. Velthari studied the data with growing alarm. The ships had approached boldly, almost carelessly. They had scanned everything with sensor sweeps more thorough than any she'd seen. Then they disappeared without using any detectable technology. Send a report to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Something strange is happening out here. Similar reports were coming in from across known space. Sorok border patrols found abandoned space stations that showed signs of recent habitation, but no trace of who had been there. The stations had been carefully studied, every system examined, then left behind like discarded toys. Captain Ben Parker of the UNS Horizon read the intelligence reports with satisfaction. His reconnaissance mission was going perfectly. For weeks, his ship had been observing alien shipping lanes, military patrols, and communication networks. Every day brought new information about galactic civilization. Amy, what's our status on the alien technology analysis? He asked his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster. Fascinating stuff, Captain. Their ships are faster than ours, but they're also more fragile. They rely heavily on energy shields because their hulls are built for speed, not protection. Their weapons are precise but not particularly powerful. Chief Engineer Ryan Murphy looked up from his console. From what I can tell, they've never had to fight a real war. All their military technology is designed for quick strikes and fast retreats. They probably couldn't handle a prolonged battle. Communications Officer Sarah Wells added her own observations. Their communication protocols are incredibly complex but not very secure. They seem to assume that everyone in the galaxy follows the same rules. No one's trying to hide anything. Parker nodded thoughtfully. What about their politics? 12. Major species in something called the Galactic Council, Wells replied. They seem to make decisions by consensus, which means everything takes forever. Each species has different strengths. The Kwarathi control mining. The Zithron handle security. The Sarok manage trade routes. Sounds like they've never faced a unified threat, Murphy observed. They're organized for cooperation, not war. Parker stared out at the stars. Earth had sent 12 ships on this reconnaissance mission, each one observing different aspects of galactic civilization. The picture they were building was both encouraging and terrifying. The aliens had incredible technology and vast resources, but they seemed completely unprepared for conflict with a species like humanity. Sarah, have you noticed anything interesting about their historical records? Actually, yes. They have these stories, myths really, about a 13th species, bipedal creatures from somewhere beyond known space. The descriptions match humans perfectly. You mean they know about us? Not exactly. They think we're legends, stories that spacers tell to pass the time. According to their records, the myths have been around for generations, but no one takes them seriously. Parker felt a chill run down his spine. Somehow, stories about humanity had spread across the galaxy before humans even knew aliens existed. How was that possible? Meanwhile, back on Zephyria Prime, the Galactic Council was facing its first real crisis in decades. Reports of mysterious encounters were flooding in from every sector. Ships that appeared and disappeared. Stations that had been carefully examined and abandoned. Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Ambassador Kethvar stood before the emergency. Assembly. My fellow delegates, we can no longer ignore what's happening. Someone is watching us. But who? Demanded Vexani. Our long-range sensors show no unknown civilizations. Our exploration fleets have mapped every system within 500 light-years. Nexus 7's hive mind buzzed with activity. The collective has analyzed all reports. The unknown vessels show consistent behavior patterns. They observe, they study, then they withdraw. This suggests intelligence and organization. Could it be pirates using new technology? Asked the Aquari delegate. Pirates don't conduct detailed scans of mining equipment, Kethvar replied. Pirates steal things. These unknowns are gathering information. A terrible thought occurred to Vexani. What if the old stories are true? The chamber fell silent. The idea was ridiculous, but the evidence was mounting. Ships that could move at impossible speeds, beings that observed from the shadows, technology that was primitive yet effective. You're suggesting that the mythical humans are real? The session leader's forearms gestured in disbelief. I'm suggesting that we have a problem, Vexani replied. Whether they're humans or some other unknown species, someone is out there watching us. Someone who doesn't want to be seen. The council erupted in debate. Some delegates demanded military action against the unknown threat. Others called for diplomatic contact. A few suggested that they were overreacting to coincidental sightings. But deep down, many of them felt a growing fear. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that they'd forgotten what it felt like to face the unknown. Now something was out, there in the dark between stars, studying them, learning about them, preparing for something. The myths were becoming reality, and they had no idea what came next. Captain Nick Davis stared at the warning lights flashing across his console and tried not to panic. The UNS Pioneer was dying around him, her engines crippled by a cascade failure that had started with a simple coolant leak. Now they were drifting helplessly toward a star system that intelligence reports said contained a major alien trade station. "Engineering report," he called to his chief engineer. "It's bad, Captain. We've lost main power, life support is running on batteries, and the navigation system is completely fried. We have maybe 6 hours before the air runs out." Dr. Emma Collins, the ship's chief medical officer, looked up from her damage assessment. "We also have 12 crew members with radiation exposure. They need treatment soon, or they're going to die." Davis felt the weight of command crushing down on him. Earth's orders had been clear: maintain secrecy at all costs. But his crew was going to die unless they got help, and the only help available came from aliens who supposedly thought humans were myths. "Captain," called communications officer Luke Martinez, "I'm picking up signals from that station. It's definitely inhabited, and they're using standard galactic communication protocols. Can we reach them?" "Yes, sir. But the moment we transmit, they'll know we exist." Davis closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his career. Open a channel, send a general distress call. On Korathi Station 7 Alpha, Crystal Singer Velthari was enjoying a quiet shift when her communications console exploded with activity. An automated distress signal was coming from somewhere in the outer system, but the transmission format was completely wrong. "Communications, what am I looking at?" Her technician's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "I'm not." "Sure, Singer. The signal is using our standard protocols, but the language is unknown. The ship design in the attached data doesn't match anything in our database." Velthari studied the images with growing amazement. The ship was primitive-looking, built like a fortress rather than a normal vessel. Its hull was thick metal instead of advanced composites, and its design seemed focused on durability rather than efficiency. "Singer," her technician said in a whisper, "look at the crew data." The distress signal included basic biological information about the crew, as required by galactic law. Velthari felt her light pattern shift to deep purple as she read the impossible specifications. The creatures aboard that ship breathed an atmosphere that would kill most galactic species. They operated in gravity fields that would crush a Korathi. Their body temperature was so high they should have been dead. "This has to be a joke," she muttered. But then she looked at the sensor readings. A real ship was out there, badly damaged, and drifting toward their sun. If this was a hoax, someone had gone to incredible lengths to make it convincing. "Singer, what should we do?" Velthari made a decision that would change galactic history. "Launch a rescue ship. If this is real, we can't let them die. If it's fake, we'll figure that out soon enough." An hour later, the Korathi rescue vessel approached the Pioneer with extreme caution. The alien ship looked even stranger up close, scarred, practical, and somehow intimidating despite being helpless. When the Korathi boarding party made contact, they found themselves face to face with creatures from their oldest legends. Dr. Collins led the human delegation, with Martinez providing security. The first meeting between humans and aliens took place in the Pioneer's damaged cargo bay, with both sides staring at each other in amazement. The Korathi boarding leader, a young crystal singer named Kiral, spoke first. You're really real?" "As real as you are," Collins replied through the universal translator they'd hastily programmed. "We need medical assistance for our crew and repairs for our ship." Kiral's light pattern shifted rapidly as he tried to process what he was seeing. These creatures matched the ancient stories perfectly. 2 arms, 2 legs, forward-facing eyes, and an atmosphere that would poison any sane being. Yet here they were, talking calmly about medical assistance, as if this was a normal day. "Your biological specifications," Kiral said carefully. "They indicate that you come from a world that should be uninhabitable." Collins smiled. "Earth is a bit rough compared to most worlds, but it's home. We'd be happy to tell you about it once we're not dying." The Korathi moved quickly to help. Their medical technology couldn't treat humans directly, but they provided equipment and supplies that allowed Collins to care for her own people. Their engineering teams studied the Pioneer's damage with fascination, amazed by the ship's crude but effective design. Within hours, word of the contact spread across the galactic communication network. Emergency transmissions flooded from station to station, carrying the impossible news that the mythical 13th species had appeared and requested help. On Zephyria Prime, the Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Ambassador Kethvar stood before the emergency session, holding a datapad that contained the first confirmed images of living humans. My fellow delegates, the impossible has happened. The creatures from our oldest stories are real, and they're asking for our help. The session leader's forearms waved frantically as he tried to maintain order. This is clearly some kind of elaborate hoax. These humans are probably just another species wearing disguises. The biological scans don't lie, Kethvar replied. Their DNA is unlike anything in our databases. Their physiology matches the ancient descriptions perfectly, and their technology... He paused dramatically. It's exactly what the myths predicted. Primitive materials built into incredibly durable designs. Vexani's crystalline form flickered with fear. If they're real, then what else from the stories might be true? The myths say they're incredibly dangerous in combat. They also say humans can survive anywhere and adapt to anything, added Nexus 7. The hive mind calculates that a species with such traits would be extremely difficult to contain or control. The debate raged for hours. Some delegates wanted to welcome humanity into galactic civilization. Others demanded that the humans be studied and confined. A few suggested that they should be destroyed before they became a threat. Back on the Pioneer, Captain Davis was dealing with his own crisis. Earth Command had been monitoring their transmissions and Admiral Sullivan was not happy. Nick, do you understand what you've done? Her voice crackled through the repaired communications system. Our entire strategy was based on secret observation. Now they know we exist. My crew was dying, Admiral. I couldn't let them die to protect a secret. Sullivan's expression softened slightly. I understand your position, Captain, but now we have to deal with the consequences. Intelligence reports indicate that news of your contact has spread across their entire civilization. We can't put the cat back in the bag. What are your orders? Change of plans. We're accelerating the timeline. The fleet will arrive at your position within 72 hours. We're going to make formal contact whether we're ready or not. Davis felt a chill of anticipation. First contact had been supposed to happen gradually, carefully, with months of preparation. Instead, it was going to happen immediately, with the entire galaxy watching and waiting to see what humanity would do next. The age of human isolation was over, and no one knew what came next. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. Ambassador Kethvar looked exhausted as he addressed the assembled delegates, his scaled skin showing signs of stress. The news of human contact had sent shockwaves across known space, and every species was demanding answers. The situation continues to develop, Kethvar announced. Our teams have confirmed that the rescued humans are genuine. Their biology, their technology, their cultural patterns, everything matches the ancient stories. The myths were true. Session leader Mordak gestured with all 4 arms for order as the chamber erupted in worried chatter. What is the current status of the human vessel? The ship called Pioneer has been fully repaired and is currently docked at Korathi Station 7 Alpha. The humans have been cooperative and peaceful, but... Kethvar paused nervously. They've been asking very detailed questions about our government structure, military capabilities, and territorial boundaries. Vexani's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. They're gathering intelligence. It gets worse, Kethvar continued. Our deep space monitors have detected energy signatures moving toward this system. Multiple signatures, large ones. The chamber fell silent. Nexus 7's compound eyes glittered as the hive mind processed this information. How many signatures? At least 25, possibly more. They're traveling in formation and will arrive within hours. Admiral Sektar of the Hegemony Navy stood up, his aggressive posture clear. This is obviously an invasion force. We should mobilize our fleets immediately and prepare to defend the capital. Defend against what? Demanded the Aquari representative. We don't know their intentions. The humans we've encountered have been peaceful. Peaceful scouts gathering information for an invasion fleet, Sektar shot back. It's the oldest trick in military history. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the orbital defense platforms. Council, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Every delegate turned to watch the main display screen. Space around Zephyria Prime filled with brilliant flashes of light as ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. But these weren't the sleek, elegant vessels that galactic civilization was used to seeing. These ships looked like flying fortresses, all thick armor and heavy weapons. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UNS Liberty, watching the alien homeworld grow larger on her screen. Around her, 30 human warships held perfect formation, a modest force by galactic standards, but she hoped it would be enough to make an impression. Communications, are you picking up their transmissions? Lieutenant Commander Grace Carter nodded. They're in full panic mode, Admiral. Multiple fleet commanders are requesting orders, and their government seems to be arguing about how to respond to us. Good. Panic means they're taking us seriously. Sullivan studied the tactical display. Hundreds of alien ships were stationed around the planet, but none of them were moving to intercept the human fleet. Open a channel on all frequencies. Captain Jake Morrison, commanding the destroyer UNS Defiance, watched as his tactical officer, Commander Alex Turner, analyzed the alien formations. What do you think, Alex? They're not positioned for battle, Turner replied. Those ships are spread out for patrol duties, not combat. If they wanted to fight us, they'd be concentrating their forces. Or they're so confident that they don't think they need to. I don't think so, Captain. Look at their movement patterns. They're confused, not confident. On the Liberty, Admiral Sullivan began her broadcast. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Nations Fleet, representing the people of Earth and the human species. We come seeking peaceful contact with the Galactic Council and request permission to address your government. The message was translated into dozens of languages and broadcast on every known frequency. Across the alien fleets, commanders struggled to understand what they were hearing. The mythical humans weren't just real. They were here, in force, making diplomatic contact like any civilized species. In the council chamber, the delegates watched in stunned silence as the human fleet maintained its position just outside the planet's defense perimeter. The ships were smaller than expected, but somehow more intimidating than the massive vessels they were used to seeing. They're not attacking, observed the Aquari delegate with surprise. Not yet, Admiral Sektar replied grimly. But look at their formation. Those ships are positioned to strike at our orbital platforms, our communication satellites, our defense networks. They've studied our defenses. Kethvar activated his communication console. Human fleet. This is Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Council. We acknowledge your request for contact. However, your arrival with a military force is causing considerable concern. Sullivan's response came immediately. Ambassador, we come in peace, but we come prepared. We've observed your civilization for some time and understand that strength commands respect in galactic politics. Our weapons are charged but not targeted. We hope to keep it that way. The blunt admission that humans had been spying on them sent another wave of shock through the council. These creatures had been watching, learning, preparing while the galaxy dismissed them as myths. How long have you been observing us? Kethvar asked. Long enough to know that you prefer diplomacy to warfare, that your technology focuses on efficiency over durability, and that your military doctrine assumes that all conflicts will be brief and decisive. Sullivan's voice carried a hint of amusement. We also know that several of your member species have been detecting our scout ships for months but couldn't identify them. Commander Turner leaned toward Morrison. She's really twisting the knife. Good, Morrison replied. Better they respect us than underestimate us. Vexani's light pattern shifted to deep red as she processed the implications. You've been studying us while we thought you were myths. Why reveal yourselves now? Because one of our ships needed help, and because Earth has decided it's time to join galactic civilization, we're here to discuss terms. Terms? Session leader Mordak's forearms gestured in confusion. What terms? Territory, trade rights, representation in your government, and mutual defense agreements. The usual things that civilized species negotiate when they meet. The casual way Sullivan discussed claiming territory and demanding representation stunned the council. Most species spent decades or centuries proving themselves before gaining full membership. The humans were demanding it immediately, backed by a fleet that had appeared without warning. Admiral Sektar's aggressive instincts finally overcame his caution. Council, we cannot allow this. These humans are making demands backed by military force. That's not diplomacy. It's extortion. Sullivan's response was swift and cold. Admiral Sektar of the Hegemony Navy, your fleet consists of 47 vessels currently positioned in a defensive screen around the outer planets. Your flagship is the Dreadnought Conquest, armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Your tactical doctrine emphasizes speed and overwhelming firepower. The silence that followed was deafening. Sullivan had just demonstrated that human intelligence knew the exact composition and capabilities of the Hegemony fleet. How do you know that? Sektar demanded. We know everything, Admiral. The question is whether we're going to be friends or enemies. The choice is yours. Morrison smiled as he watched the alien fleet formations. Some ships were beginning to move into more defensive positions, but most remained paralyzed by indecision. The psychological impact of humanity's sudden appearance was exactly what Admiral Sullivan had hoped for. The galaxy's perception of humans had changed forever. They were no longer myths or legends. They were a real, powerful, and unpredictable new force that had just announced its intention to reshape galactic civilization. And they were just getting started. The council chamber had never seen security like this. Triple the normal guard force surrounded the building as Admiral Kate Sullivan and her diplomatic team prepared to address the Galactic Council. Every delegate was nervous, some terrified, as they waited to hear what humanity wanted from their civilization. Ambassador Tony Mitchell led the human delegation as they entered the chamber. Behind him walked Dr. Rachel Morgan, Earth's top cultural specialist, and Colonel Steve Wilson, their military attaché. The aliens stared in fascination and fear at these creatures from their oldest myths, now walking among them as equals. Session leader. Mordak's forearms trembled slightly as he called the session to order. The council recognizes Admiral Sullivan and the representatives of Earth. You may address the assembly. Sullivan stepped forward, her presence commanding despite being surrounded by beings from a dozen different species. Honored delegates, Earth comes before you today seeking membership in galactic civilization. We offer friendship to those who want it, and we're prepared for any other response. Her words were carefully chosen. The threat was implied, but clear. Ambassador Mitchell activated a holographic display that showed Earth's location relative to known space. Humanity has been observing your civilization for the past 8 months. We've studied your technology, your politics, your military capabilities, and your territorial boundaries. What we've learned has convinced us that joining your community would benefit both humanity and the galaxy. What makes you think you're ready for membership? Demanded Admiral Sektar. Most species spend decades proving themselves before gaining full status. Dr. Morgan smiled. Admiral, perhaps the question isn't whether we're ready, but whether you're ready for us. She activated another display showing human population figures, industrial capacity, and military strength. The numbers were staggering. Earth's population alone outnumbered several galactic species combined. We're not asking permission to exist, Morgan continued. We're informing you that we do exist, and we're offering to work together instead of separately. Vexani's crystalline form flickered with anxiety. Your military demonstration was quite impressive, Admiral Sullivan. How many ships does Earth actually possess? Sullivan's smile was enigmatic. Enough. The non-answer sent a chill through the chamber. The human fleet that had appeared was clearly just a small part of their total strength. But how much more did they have? Kethvar tried a different approach. What exactly does Earth want from membership in the Council? Standard territorial rights in unclaimed systems, representation proportional to our population and resources, access to galactic trade networks, and mutual defense agreements with peaceful species, Mitchell replied smoothly. That's half the Council vote, whispered the Aquari delegate. We're a large species, Mitchell acknowledged, but we're willing to start small. Give us provisional membership, a few systems to colonize, and trade agreements. We'll prove that humanity can be a valuable partner. Meanwhile, in orbit above, Zephyria Prime, Captain Morrison was conducting his own form of diplomacy. His fleet had been performing tactical exercises for the past hour, demonstrating human military doctrine to the watching alien forces. Alex, how are our observers reacting? Morrison asked his tactical officer. Commander Turner studied the alien fleet movements. They're fascinated and terrified. Look at this. He highlighted several alien vessels on the tactical display. They're trying to mimic our formations, but they don't understand the underlying principles. The human fleet moved like a pack of predators, each ship covering the others while maintaining maximum firepower concentration. When alien commanders tried to copy the formation, their ships bunched up ineffectively or spread out too far to provide mutual support. They're used to fighting individuals or small groups, Turner observed. Their doctrine assumes that superior technology will decide battles quickly. They've never had to think about sustained combat or coordinated fleet actions, Morrison nodded. Human military doctrine had been forged in centuries of warfare against other humans. Every formation, every tactic, every strategy had been tested in real combat. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, had never faced an enemy that fought back with equal determination. Back in the council chamber, the debate was growing heated. Some delegates supported giving humans provisional membership, while others demanded more time to study these newcomers. We need guarantees, insisted Nexus 7. The hive mind calculates that humans could destabilize the entire galactic balance of power. Colonel Wilson stepped forward. You want guarantees? Here's one. If Earth is accepted as a member of galactic civilization, we'll help defend it against any external threats. If we're rejected, he let the sentence hang. Are you threatening us? Admiral Sektar stood up aggressively. Wilson's expression remained calm. I'm explaining reality. Earth exists whether you acknowledge us or not. We can work together, or we can work separately. But we will work. Dr. Morgan activated another display showing human exploration plans. We've already identified over 200 uninhabited systems suitable for human colonization. With or without Council approval, humanity will expand into space. We'd prefer to do it as part of galactic civilization. The implications were clear. Humanity was going to spread across the galaxy regardless of what the Council decided. The only question was whether they'd do it as partners or as competitors. Vexani's light pattern shifted to deep blue as she considered the options. What assurances can you give that humanity won't become aggressive toward existing species? The same assurances you give each other, Sullivan replied. Mutual interest, trade relationships, and the understanding that cooperation benefits everyone. Plus, our military strength ensures that any aggression against Earth would be very expensive. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was becoming inevitable. Humanity was too powerful to ignore, too valuable as an ally to reject, and too dangerous as an enemy to antagonize. Finally, Session Leader Mordak called for a vote. All in favor of granting humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council? The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. 7 species voted in favor, 3 abstained, and only 2 voted against. The motion passes, Mordak announced. Earth is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, with full review in 2 standard years. Sullivan smiled. Thank you. Earth looks forward to a long and profitable relationship with galactic civilization. As the session ended, delegates began approaching the human representatives with trade proposals, alliance offers, and requests for meetings. The galaxy was already adapting to its newest member. On the Liberty, Morrison received orders to begin the next phase of humanity's expansion. Sarah, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the first colony ships can begin launching. We've got a galaxy to explore. The myths had become reality, and reality was that humanity was here to stay. The galaxy would never be the same again. 3. Months later, human colonies were sprouting in a dozen systems. Earth's trade ships were carrying goods across galactic trade routes. Human scientists were working alongside alien researchers to unlock new technologies. But perhaps most importantly, the old spacer stories about the mysterious 13th species had been replaced by new stories. Stories about the species that appeared from nowhere, demanded their place among the stars, and reshaped galactic civilization in the process. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy was learning what it meant to share space with Earth's children.